is that our career, obviously, you know, it is very much up and down hit. Anything can happen, anything can go right, anything can go wrong. And I think because we started when we were 13 years old, that was just something that we had to come to terms really, really quickly. And again, like you say, you know, we've been on for quite a while now. And so we're fortunate that we are getting to grips with how this industry works. We've taken blows left, right, and center, you know, being dropped by record labels, whatever it might be. And, you know, we know how to sort of compartmentalize that now and figure out, okay, that's the problem. Let's figure that out. Let's fix it. Let's move on. Let's do the next thing. And I think now we've gotten to a point where we're really comfortable with just plowing on, which we're quite happy with.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe this is kind of related, but can y'all share about a time in your life when maybe you felt like a burden, when it was very confusing to distinguish the things that you were carrying and a piece of your identity?
I mean, I would say, you know, a lot of the time I do feel bad because sometimes, and I know this is going to sound like such a first world problem, but I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, everyone should express if something does bother them, regardless of how important or unimportant it is. But, you know, a lot of our job is capturing things and filming things and making sure that even if we are having fun or doing whatever, that we're getting that on camera, because that is just part of who we are. And a lot of the time I do feel like sometimes I might be in the way or, you know, annoying people or upsetting people because instead of being there and doing things, I am just trying to get content. But at the same time, I think, you know, we do have a balance for that. We do make sure that it is not, you know, 100% all the time switched on, Max and Harvey doing stuff. You know, it's not, that isn't how we live our life. But at the same time, it can get really tricky for us to sort of figure out, okay, so when is a time that we are filming and when is a time that we're not? Because a lot of what we do is just, here's what we're doing today sort of thing. So it is very hard to draw that line. And I think where you say feeling like a burden sort of comes into it is that I'm always conscious of annoying other people or upsetting other people. And that can get really stressful to manage because you never really want to constantly ask someone, oh, am I annoying you? Am I being annoying? Am I being annoying? Because then you're being annoying. So it's like, you know, always feels like a bit of digging a hole almost.
Yeah, right on. Max, thoughts on that? Have there been times that you've felt like a burden?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I totally agree with what Harvey said about being out in public. I mean, I certainly, even when I was younger, if we're to go sort of like way back, I certainly had a bit more trouble socializing for sure and figuring out the right way to socialize. I sort of grew up more sitting back and learning how people did things rather than just jumping right into it, which is a bit more Harvey over here. But yeah, I certainly felt not as much, I think a burden is too strong of the word, but a little bit out of place for sure when I was younger. So I certainly have experience with that kind of thing for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. It's someone in the comments mentioned earlier just, you know, how difficult transitions are, and it's so easy to celebrate these big transitions. Like, okay, you guys are going from the stage to X Factor, now you're going from X Factor to Instagram or to TikTok, you know, and yeah, like on some level change can be super exciting, but change can also bring about a ton of difficulty. And I think just kind of looking at you know, kind of the bullet points of your life that have been given to me, just man, I can only imagine the blessing, but also maybe the added stress in navigating so much together. So you don't have to go through it alone, which can be comforting, but you are also, I guess, maybe consistently and constantly comparing your experience to your siblings or to your friends or to the number of other contestants on the show or the actors in the touring package. Like, I don't know, I guess kind of what's your perspective in navigating growing up, navigating learning on the fly in the presence of other people?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because I think I'm always thinking that in the job we're in, you know, we're so lucky to be doing what we're doing and to be at this point in our careers, and you know, to just be doing so many cool things. And it becomes really hard to then feel bad for yourself. And this will happen at every level of life. You know, you'll always look and go, oh, well, there's people that are having way worse problems than me, so I shouldn't be allowed to complain, or whatever it is. And it is really hard to sit doing what we're doing and be having such a great time, but also then look at it and go, no, but I am struggling a little bit, because at the end of the day, if you're struggling, you're struggling. It doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing. And I think, to answer your question, sort of, you asked about perspective, right? Like, how do you put it into perspective?
Yeah, great.
It is just sort of, like you say, looking around and going, well, maybe these people are feeling the same thing. Maybe, I could find someone that is dealing with the same thing that I can talk to. And like you said, luckily we have each other and we can massively relate. We're basically going through the exact same thing. I think, there is always going to be someone out there that's going to be able to relate in some way or another. And I think charities like this, and also just loads of other charities that support similar things, are able to sort of help people and find people for people, if you know what I mean, that can sort of talk to you, that actually understand, rather than just going, oh, well, yeah, this is something that people like this feel. You want someone that actually feels it too, that can express it.
Something I want to add really quickly before we move on as well is just a way of thinking about it. People say this all the time. Obviously mentioned about comparing yourselves to other people. I hate that, and I've always sort of prided myself. Is that the right
probably
in doing my best not to compare myself to others. I think what we should all try and do, and obviously it'll take time, because obviously there's that natural sense of jealousy if you see someone doing better than you, obviously, but I think the best thing to do in that scenario is, instead of taking jealousy and feeling sad about it, try and learn from that person that's doing better, and try and really look at what they're doing right, kind of thing. I think if you could take from them rather than be against
without
them,
plagiarizing.
yeah, without
with limits.
Figure out what the sort of techniques they're using in the background, that you could do the same kind of thing, but obviously put your own spin on it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And kind of taking this moment as a brief, maybe halftime in our conversation, I love what y'all were saying about connecting people to people, and that's really at the heart of this campaign for You Are Not a Burden in honor of Suicide Prevention Month. So you can see that we are in the midst of doing a fundraiser. We have set a goal to raise $250,000 American dollars to connect thousands and thousands of people to the hope and help that they deserve. So with that money, we're going to be able to fund over 3,600, that's 3,600 group therapy and individual counseling sessions, and also build out our database to connect 45,000 people to local and affordable options for hope and help. So y'all, thank you so much for everything you've done so far. But that is the hope. This is not a conversation about you got through that, I'm proud of you, but it's more of a, how are we going to get through this, right? Like it's the invitational piece of that. So yeah, did I cut one of y'all off there? Did you have
Not at all. No, I loved it.
Right on. So in those moments that you felt like you were too much, in those moments that you felt like maybe your career path was too much, when you felt like you were, not to keep coming back to this word, but a burden, what were the factors that helped shift that perspective for you? Who were the voices, or what were the flashbulb moments that helped you see your experience a little bit differently?
Well, to start with, we are always too much. Just every time we walk into a room, don't worry. Like we've come to terms with that. We're not upset about it or anything. We just know that every time we enter a room, everyone just sort of goes,
"Here we go."
But that's like in a good way.
They got to prep camera crews for us before we do shoots, because we're just chaotic. But,
yeah.
I think first and foremost is certainly our parents sort of a driving factor into sort of keeping us very, very level-headed and sort of on the right track pretty much our whole lives, because obviously being in this industry, there's easy ways you can get caught up in certain things and certain ways of life that most people would probably think against and isn't the right way to sort of live your life or treat other people. But we feel that our parents have sort of kept us as well brought up and level-headed as we can be, which we're very, very grateful for, and we can always go to them for communication. I mean, we've had our experience with therapists in this industry as well, especially when we did sort of the Celebrity X Factor and for other really stressful periods of our life. Talking to anyone that we sort of trust, whether it even be best mates, they always keep us completely humbled and level-headed, and they make sure they do. It is one of their favourite jobs to do. But yeah, I think we do constantly communicate with people, and I think that certainly helps because, as I sort of said, is we're constantly learning how to deal with certain things that crop up because our lives are different pretty much daily, which is a tricky thing to deal with because obviously a lot of people like the comfort of doing the same thing, whereas we're not quite the same. But then you've got to grasp how to the different, tricky one.
No, and I think y'all are doing some amazing things in the space of extending a sense of empathy and extending kind of that net of collective experience. I'd love for y'all to talk a little bit about y'all's advocacy work. You know, I've learned about school days. I've learned about the conversations that you're leading that are trying to get people to be kinder, to get outside of their own world for a little bit, to I don't want to, kind of steal your thunder here, but why don't you tell us about some of the conversations that you're hosting through your spaces?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I really appreciate that you bring that up, actually, because we've always sort of had this thing, Max and I can be very boisterous and annoying in our content, and that we know we're like that. But I think our main point has always been to stay on the positive side of things. So, no matter what happens, especially being in this sort of creator world, it's very easy to fall into here's an argument where I can get views or whatever it is, or here's a way I can respond to haters in a really negative way and all that sort of stuff. And I think we've just sort of always veered away from that because we feel that if we can create a positive space for people to, come and just watch our content or whatever it is, that creates that environment where it's just a safe space. There's never any sort of stress or worry or, just anything really. And we hope that we can sort of instill that into the people that either watch our content or the people that are hardcore fans. And we know that they're out there, and we, absolutely appreciate the living crap out of them because, they're the ones that sort of keep us doing what we're doing. And, that we can never sort of take for granted. But I think, like I said, we've always been on the positive side of things, even if there's crazy things going on in the world. Obviously, we will share our support where we can, but at the same time, we just want to make sure that our platforms and our, everything that we're doing is just staying positive, a place for people to be distracted rather than stressed. And I think there should be more of that, and there is more of that on social media, but I think, people really made an effort to make some spaces where people can just go and not care about anything else in the world. I think that would make a massive difference.
We won't talk about politics.
Yeah, no politics for us.
Fair. Well, to be fair, I think there's so much that goes into it, and like you said, like we all find our distractions. Some of them can be more helpful than others, and I'd say a distraction that's going to enable collective laughter is probably going to be the ideal one, or maybe even not even laughter. I don't think we need to set the bar that you got to be positive all the time. Let's be honest. It's okay to not be okay, but at no point are you expected to be alone, right? And that's in the branding of Max and Harvey. And I know that you often include other voices into your shenanigans. I guess to that end, I know that you have grown up and you've developed friendships and you've even found friendships on the road through your blooming career of people that have been or still are in hard places. So let's take this away from like people that are subscribers or people that are fans. What would you say to a loved one, to a friend, to someone in your circle who feels like they are a burden? What would you offer to those people closest to you that are feeling that weight?
The first thing I would try and do to help someone, because obviously you don't want to force someone to think a different way, but you can try and help them see things from another perspective rather than through their own eyes, because obviously every single person's going to have their own skewed view of what's going on, and if your brain does enough overworking, it's going to be stuck on that view and not be able to sort of change your mind. So I think, especially for a loved one, I mean, I would tell anyone, even especially a loved one, but obviously anyone that came to us with a problem, is just try and see it from everyone else's perspective. They have said something to someone in a certain tone, and you've gone, oh my God, I must have sounded so horrible saying that kind of thing in that tone. I didn't mean for it to come out like that. But then that person might have just gone, oh, and just forgotten about it, kind of thing. And they don't really care. But you're crafting a reason for them now to hate you and not want to talk to you, whatever. And they might not read what the next text you're about to think that everyone's living your aspect as well as in timeless from different.
No, I love that. I mean, I've long been a believer that perspective is really the best tool in this. You know, if you think about moments where your anxiety or your depression is in the driver's seat, those are things that keep us from connecting with other people. That limits our perspective, and that can be dangerous. That can even be fatal. So, you know, I think it's so important to well, and this is a two-way street, right? Like, it's not all on you, dear person that may be going through a tough time, to cheer yourself up, to pick yourself up by the bootstraps, or whatever, you know, your turn of phrase is. It's not all on you, but there are other people who want to be there for you, even in the moments that you feel like you're a burden, that you feel like you're too much, that you feel that you're just going to drag everyone down. Flip the perspective. Is there anything that you would rather carry than a friend going through a tough time? And, you know, I would just say, like, don't rob your friends, don't rob your family of the joy of carrying through hard things. Like, it's that's a lesson that I still have to relearn almost daily, is allowing people to help me, being aware that I'm not in this alone. Yeah, and y'all are too wise for 19. I
know,
we appreciate that.
But now,
yeah, trust me that we have to explain. We've literally just been filming a video with our friend who's round, where one of us was blindfolded, one of us had headphones on, and one of us couldn't talk, and we've been trying to communicate with each other to bake brownies. So, like, there's very two different sides. That was just insanity, and we very quickly jumped to this, so the contrast is immense. But, you know,
I'm doing my best to communicate right now, but I was blind a couple minutes ago, so it wasn't ideal.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see this video. But we'll, yeah, man. Well, I'd say I just want to kick it to y'all. Any parting thoughts? Anything else that you'd care to share? Any last plugs? Anything that we should know about the lives of Max and Harvey as we go into the rest of our weekends?
Yeah, no, I think the main thing for me right now is that, especially, you know, we have this amazing thing now, having a phone in our hands, and I think there are so many outlets for people to find help, and a lot of the time, even now, you know, as much as it is said, people still get nervous or almost embarrassed to find help. And I think even Max and I, you know, when we were told that we would have a therapist for the X Factor, we went, well, that's stupid. Why would we want a therapist? And then we had one, and we went, oh, it's because they will listen to us and not judge us. And obviously there are people that aren't therapists that will do that, but, you know, that is just such a important thing to have in your life. And I think with, like I said, charities like To Write Love on Her Arms and you know, everywhere else on the internet, there are so many options. And I think just looking for help is a very small step to getting to where you want to be happy, but I think is one of the most important, because if you try and do it on your own, it might work, but at the end of the day, if you reach out to someone, I think it's just so much better to go through it with someone rather than completely on your own. So I think, yeah, you know, to summarize, I won't go on for too long, but just, you know, reach out to people. People aren't going to think you're annoying or a burden or whatever it is. If you've got a real problem, people do have empathy. We are holding on to that. And, you know, people will help.
Yeah, and I just say to those listening, to those watching, whether now or in the future, know that even if you can't identify a friend or a family member or a mentor in this moment to reach out for help, there are still options. Our friends at Crisis Text Line, they do work in the UK as well. All you have to do is text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. That's SHOUT to 85258, and you'll be connected via text to a trained crisis volunteer to help you navigate whatever it is you're walking through. To those of you in the States, you've seen our feed, you know that number. It's 741-741. That's available for whenever you need it. But y'all, thank you so much for squeezing us into your schedule. Thank you for believing in us enough to support this campaign. Thank you all to you watching that you would take time out of your day to hopefully be encouraged, to hopefully learn a lot more. If you have any questions, please check us out at youarenotaburden.com. Boys, anything else from your end?
Not at all. We're just so
I'm
happy
all
that you
good,
had us
yeah.
on. Thank you for having us. This is an amazing thing that you're doing, and this is going to the end of this week or next week, is it?
End of September. Yep, we got 6 days. We can hit these goals, y'all. And thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, everyone that's watching on our end, please, if you can donate, we're going to donate as well. It's an amazing cause, and obviously, it's